Jeff starts off this hour in Phoenix, Arizona. Hi, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Dave?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
Hey, I just wanted to get your take on something I've been struggling with a little bit regarding prenups and kind of the biblical, thought process on it, as well as obviously the logical. I've struggled back and forth a little bit, but been in a relationship for a while, looking at getting married. We're both much older, in our later 40s. Both obviously have assets and children from previous relationships, and looking to try to merge that together and so on.
Yeah. How much in assets do you have?
I have about 850.
What about her?
About 100,000.
Okay. All right. What's your income?
Mine a little over 150.
How old are you?
I'm 50 years old.
And how old is she?
48.
Okay. All right. Well, let me just I don't have any real hard and fast thing on it. Generally, and I think you'd be hard pressed to make a quote biblical case for or against, except that the Bible's pretty much clear that when you get married, that's it. You're going to have to take a bullet for them, and so if you're not willing to, better for worse, the old Book of Common Prayer. You remember the old-fashioned marriage vows, in sickness and in health, rich or for poor. Unto thee all my worldly goods I pledge.
Correct.
And that's the ancient, very, very ancient process, and would be steeped in biblical tradition. I'm not sure I can back it up biblically completely, but I think the concept is there that you're all in, and I don't think you disagree with that. So I generally have said avoid prenups. And I run into absurd situations, like one girl called and said, this boy she was dating wanted a prenup because he had a rehabbed all the way from the frame 67 Chevelle, and he wanted to protect her from taking it were they to get a divorce. And I said, this guy, do not marry him. He likes cars more than you. So this is, that's an absurd thing. That's kind of obvious for most people with common sense to go, no, you don't need a prenup. You need a new boyfriend. And so, that kind of thing. So, but in your case, it starts to go, I used to just when I first started all this 20 years ago, I'm babbling, but because it's such an interesting topic, but 20 years ago, I used to say, no, never do a prenup. If you don't love them more than you love money, don't marry them. That was my stance. And generally, I'm going to go there most of the time. I'll tell you what softened me on it, though. The only thing that softened me on it is I've worked with so many of these athletes, and I've worked with so many of these music people where, they've got $10 million and they're getting married to somebody who doesn't have two nickels. And obviously it's somebody been hanging around the football team. Hello. It's like it's like hanging around with docs because you want to hitch one, hook one. And so, in those situations where there's an extreme disparity, and there's a lot of money on the line, it's not that the principle doesn't apply. It's just and usually it's not even the person they're marrying that's nuts, but those people that they're marrying have nuts in their lives.
Yeah,
there's squirrels around them, and that think that all of a sudden then that boy's supposed to pay for her mama's house or something, and it's crazy people. And the amount of money makes it crazy. So in those situations, I actually do recommend a prenup. But in a traditional marriage situation, no. You're kind of in the middle of that. You're kind of on the bubble.
Because I obviously, at 50 years old, I've got 15, 17 years left before hopefully retirement and making sure that I've got enough money to provide for myself and, all of those sorts of things. And, and my point is,
the other way of looking at it is this: would you give $400,000 to be married to this lady?
Well, that's what it boils down to, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
I guess I didn't look at it that way, but
that's another way of saying it. And is that going to, the only part of your story that gave me a little bit of pause was that you've both got kids from formers.
Correct.
And you want to somehow do that, and you can do that with trusts or with, some other stuff. Maybe not the prenups, maybe not the vehicle. But man, I tell you, I want to be sure I date them long enough that I'm willing to invest that heavily. I mean, I've told Sharon, my wife, man, if I die, she's good looking. She'll get married quick, probably, if she wants to, and she's going to be unbelievably rich. So, she's just it's just a danger. She needs a prenup. you know, and to protect my kids, that kind of thing. So anyway, that comes into play. I would say you're on the bubble, and I would tread very carefully and warily, and I would be scared about the prenup because it's a bad thing in general. But in some cases, just make sure that you're willing to pay a price for that wife, man. If you're not willing to pay a price for her that's more than gold, then you're not ready for marriage yet.
Yeah.
And that's the acid test that I keep coming back to. And I think you're that guy. That's why I'm talking to you this way. I think you're the guy that's going to do that.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's one of those things you've been going back and forth with and trying to make sure I make the right decision.
Yeah. And I'm no help because I didn't give you an answer.
The right way.
I didn't give you an answer.
No, but you gave me a lot of insight. And like I say, I think that you got to look at kids and all the other stuff. And, it's like I said, I my idea is we get married, I'm all in, all my resources as far as income and all that stuff is always
if you didn't have kids, I would just say suck it up and get married. And just if you're not willing to put $400,000 at risk, you're not ready to get married. I would say that to you if you didn't have kids. You got kids, and you guys are a little older. You're not you're not in your 20s or something, and so were both of you divorced before or deaths?
Yeah, both divorced before and things like that. So
you got to go through enough pre-marriage counseling that she doesn't carry her former's baggage into your deal, and vice versa, right?
And vice versa, correct.
Yeah. So that's there too. So makes it harder. It's a valid question in your situation, Jeff. And I don't have a solid answer. I'll tell you, after talking it through with you, I would lean towards none. No prenup. That would be my leaning. But you have a valid reason to consider it because you're right on the bubble. I generally tell people if you don't have $2 million or more, don't do it. That's a general statement. But I reserve the right to change because this is called The Dave Ramsey Show, and I make it up every day. So